Good evening, 5 o'clock here at WDBO. You know what that means. It's time to get on the WDBO payroll payout right now. Tap the payroll payout button in the WDBO app and enter the word Bucks for your chance to win $1,000. Download the WDBO app and enter Bucks, Bucks, Bucks right now for your chance to get on the WDBO payroll payout. Our top story, the White House responded to the collapse of the sale of First Republic Bank while celebrating the nation's small businesses in a Rose Garden ceremony today. President Biden says action must be taken to prevent future failures.
Folks, we have to make sure that we're not back in this position again. And I think we're well on our way to be able to make that assurance.
The bank's collapse is the second largest in American history, following Washington Mutual Bank, which fell during the 2018 recession. Well, if you're looking to get your furry friend some new toys and treats, Amazon has you covered.
Starting tomorrow, Amazon will run a 48-hour Pet Day event. Thousands of products will go on sale, including pet toys, supplies, treats, and food. These savings will be additional to the Prime member savings. Nicole Diaz, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
Remember to open your WDBO app and go to the payroll payout button. Enter the word Bucks, Bucks, Bucks right now at the payroll payout button for your chance to win $1,000 and get paid just for listening to WDBO. 5:02 here at WDBO.
La 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 la. Hi, everybody. Hi, Karen, Chris, Paul, Jude. Hey, Jude. Don't let me down. The sad song. Make it better. Right? Can you hear me singing, Laurel?
Yes, I can hear you singing.
You're not going to join me in the duet?
No, I think you got it. I think
Really?
you were good all by yourself.
Okay. Remember the fa sa ba da ba. La la. We make it better. Better, 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 better. Hey! Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Hey, hey, Judy, 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 Judy. Well, this is an exciting night for me. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm pretty excited about this. We had cake at the radio station today and everything. In fact, I shortly after I was presented with the congratulatory cake, I dropped it onto some of our equipment here in the studio. And if you want to see video of that, it's on the WDBO Facebook page. Now, I would like to welcome everybody to the Joe Kelley Show, and this is new today. If you're new to Orlando or new to WDBO, this is in place of the third hour of the Sean Hannity Show. Now, let not your heart be troubled, as Sean likes to say. Let not your heart be troubled, because the third hour of the Sean Hannity Show will be coming up at 7 o'clock. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, I don't want to wait 2 hours to hear the third hour of the Sean Hannity Show. And you might think to yourself, well, I will find the third hour of the Sean Hannity Show somewhere else. Well, and no doubt we will get complaints like that, because look, let's be honest, nothing is fun for the whole family, right? We generally, as humans, we're not big fans of change. We don't like change. We like the stability of knowing what time things are going to happen and who they're going to happen with. And I get that. And I totally understand. And as a fan of Sean Hannity myself, I totally understand wanting to catch the whole show of Sean Hannity. But what we have also heard from our listeners over and over and over again is we want more local programming. We want to be able to hear more local programming here on WDBO. And the only way to do that, the clock is a zero-sum game. If we take an hour out somewhere, that's going to move somebody out of an hour. And so that's exactly what we've done is we have kind of split in half the Sean Hannity Show. It's actually, we split it in thirds. So the third hour is going to be coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. You might say to yourself, well, I'll just find the third hour somewhere else. So I will stream my 3 hours somewhere else. That's kind of the point. That's kind of why we launched a local show at this time, because there are some 500 radio stations in America that all sound the same, that all have Sean Hannity on at the same time. So there are infinite options to be able to hear the Sean Hannity Show. There's only one option to be able to hear the Joe Kelley Show, and that's here on WDBO, which it's the only radio station in America, and our plans are for this to be the only radio station in America to have the Joe Kelley Show. Now, ultimately, it's going to be up to you, our listeners, to decide in the long term whether this show stays or whether this show goes, as to whether or not you listen. And in 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, a year, we'll look at the ratings, we'll look at the feedback from our listeners, and we'll decide whether or not this was a brilliant idea or a terrible idea. We will analyze that and, of course, adjust accordingly in the future. But in the meantime, welcome to the Joe Kelley Show. I'm so glad you're able to join us here. If you'd like to be able to see behind the scenes, we do have a live video stream that is up and running right now on the WDBO Facebook page. You can see it there. You can also look for it on my Facebook page and on Talk Radio Joe on YouTube. The number to join me at any point is 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can also use the open mic in the WDBO app. And I do want to mention once again, you heard Laurel say this at the top of the hour, but your chance to win $1,000 in the WDBO payroll payout is right now. And the key word is Bucks, B-U-C-K-S, Bucks. And all you have to do is open up the WDBO app, click the button that says payroll payout, and then enter the word Bucks for your chance to win $1,000 simply for listening to WDBO. Now, we have in radio speak, we've rearranged what we call the clock a little bit to allow a little bit more time for me to be able to talk, to be able to set up topics without interruptions, and I'm thrilled about that. I do want to point out some of the content that we have coming up here in the next 2 hours. We're going to be talking about whether there's a state lawmaker here in Florida that wants sex offenders to have their own license plates. It's basically a scarlet letter for automobiles for sex offenders, but it's more than just sex offenders. It would also include their family members, could and potentially include their friends. And even a roommate could potentially also be flagged with sex offender license plates. We'll get into that coming up a little bit later tonight. The Democrats, the Democratic Party wants to further kick open our southwest border. They want to just make our border so thoroughly wide open. They have created a special category of people that should be able to waltz across the border unimpeded. And wait till you find out which category of people that is. I'll have that for you coming up in a few minutes. But first, there is a new study out now from the CDC. And I feel like we should always, since the pandemic, take everything with a grain of salt from the CDC. But they do an annual survey of high schoolers, and they ask them about about sex, is basically what they ask them. And for the first time ever in the history of this survey, a record 1 in 4, a full 1/4 of high school students say they're gay, bisexual, or questioning their sexuality. That is double the amount from 2015. So what in the world has happened in America between 2015 and 2023 that has so massively jumped the number of students in high school that say they're gay, bisexual, or questioning their sexuality? Well, that depends on who you ask. Some experts in the LGBTQ community will tell you that the explosion in alternative sexualities amongst children can be partly attributed to increased acceptance. All right. So they want you to believe that because we somehow in society have become more accepting of homosexual people, of bisexual people, of transgender people, of everything that the LGBTQ plus stands for, we are more accepting of that as a society, and that's why more children are coming out. Now, another argument could be that this is a social contagion in the United States, and these kids are either confused or they're making it up. First of all, particularly when you focus on bisexuality, do you know what you have to do to be considered bisexual? Do you know what you have to do? All you have to do is say that you're bisexual. You don't actually have to like both sexes. You can just say you're bisexual, and suddenly in your peer groups, that makes you kind of cool. Because socially, in schools especially, being gay or bi is socially in right now. You know, they recently had a walkout here in Florida. I say recently, this was several months ago. But they had a walkout of kids that wanted to protest. In fact, I think this was actually in the last school year. But they had a walkout statewide at a bunch of kids in high schools that all wanted to walk out and protest the new Parental Rights and Education Act, which critics refer to as the Don't Say Gay bill. And all of these kids wanted to walk out. And I've got this on firsthand authority from my own kids who are in high school. And everybody wants to walk out to protest gay rights, mostly because everybody wants to walk out of class. People want out of class. Students will protest absolutely anything that they have the opportunity to protest if it means getting out of class. I don't know why that is so hard to understand or to figure out. But what really makes these numbers from the CDC look particularly squirrely is that the rates of bisexual children, the rates of transgender children is significantly higher than the adult population. Now, there is nothing that would inhibit the adult population from coming out as gay if they want to be gay, coming out as trans if they want to be trans, coming out as bi if they want to be bi, coming out as lesbians if they want to be lesbians. There is nothing that stops adults from doing that. There are plenty of things that would inhibit peer pressure, particularly children, from doing those kinds of things, plus ignorance. I mean, kids don't always understand the feelings that they're feeling. They don't always understand. Gosh, I remember. I mean, I have been a heterosexual cis male my entire life. For those that don't know, cis male is basically just a heterosexual person. So I have been a cisgender man my entire life. And, never once was I confused about, gosh, do I like guys, or do I like guys and girls, or do I want to be a girl? That none of those thoughts ever, ever, ever crossed my mind, in large part because it wasn't part of discussions. It wasn't something that you even considered. It wasn't something that you thought of. It wasn't something that people interjected into the discussion. It is now. This is what kids talk about now. And, I think back to my high school process, and keeping in mind that I went to high school in a very small community in Texas. And truth be told, there was not a lot of diversity in my high school. In fact, I'm reasonably sure that I could count on one hand how many black students went to my school. It was a very segregated school, even though it was not required to be so. There was just a very small handful of black kids that went to my school. I can recall maybe about as many who were gay. But these days in schools, it is quite a bit different. These days in schools, especially when you were in states, like here, like Florida, here in the Florida Freedom Zone, where Governor DeSantis has made it an issue to take pornographic books out of our schools. And if and I know that there are a lot of gay Floridians and young students who say, "Oh, this is terrible. It's book burning and it's book banning." And if you have actually seen the books, then I think you would fully understand why the governor wanted those books removed, because they were indeed pornographic. There's just no two ways about it. But my bigger belief here is that the reason why kids today are reporting in record numbers that they're gay or bisexual is purely because it's a social contagion. They have, if you will, caught gay or bisexuality from the crowd, from the rest of the group. And again, there's further evidence to prove this, not the least of which is, once again, that adults, about 7% of adults claim to be gay, bisexual, or other, where 25% of high schoolers claim that they are in the United States. So there is a major disconnect between teenagers, school kids, and adults. The other big difference is other places where they've done similar studies. They did a study in the UK, for example, where 8% of people between the ages of 16 and 24 identify as LGBTQ. 8% in the UK, 25% in the United States. This is a social contagion here in the United States. Join me now at 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. What do you attribute the increase in the amount of kids in high school that now say they're gay or bisexual or in some other way, shape, or form LGBTQ? Is it because of an increased acceptance, or is it because of a social contagion? And I will further explain exactly what I mean by a social contagion if you don't know, coming up next. So stay with us. Again, it's 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can hit us up in the open mic in the WDBO app. You can join the discussion in the chat in the WDBO Facebook page. We will continue coming up with your calls and comments on the way next on the Joe Kelley Show. Thank you. So I'm watching this new show on Amazon. No, I guess it's on Netflix.
American airline pilots are moving closer to a strike. The Allied Pilots Association announced on Monday that 96% of its 15,000 members voted on whether or not to authorize a strike last month, and 99% of the participants said yes. While the pilots are allowing a strike to take place, they are still on the job, and negotiations with American are ongoing. The U.S. is tracking an unknown balloon that flew over American soil. NBC reports the mysterious object flew across portions of Hawaii but did not go over any sensitive areas. It is slowly moving towards Mexico and is not believed to be transmitting any data. Earlier this year, a Chinese spy balloon was able to fly over sensitive U.S. military installations before it was shot down. Hollywood is bracing for a possible strike by TV and movie writers. Last-ditch efforts are underway to avoid a walkout by nearly 20,000 members of the Writers Guild of America. The WGA's current contract with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers expires at midnight.
No, I did not hear that. Is that new? Henrietta.
Joe, the reason there's such a big increase is because the school teachers are grooming the kids that are most vulnerable.
All right, what do you think? 1-844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Let's go to Chris in Deltona. You're on WDBO, the Joe Kelley Show. Hi, Chris. You bet, bud. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I do think that a lot of that starts at the home, if not all of that starts at the home. I mean, I'm leery of religion in schools. I believe religion starts and ends at the home. It starts and ends with good fathers and good husbands, and leading a family through their religious beliefs. Having religion in schools is something good to learn about religions, but I'm not a fan of proselytizing in school. But I am dead on with you, Chris, that this is something that starts at home and really should have been dealt with in the home setting before this has gone as wide as it has gone. My name is Joe Kelley. You can join me at 844-580-WDBO. Let's go to Sean in Sanford. You're on WDBO. Hi, Sean. Good. Hang on. I'm a little confused when you say cartoons. Like, I remember when I was a kid, and maybe when you were a kid, if we're about the same age, I'm 55. But when I was a kid, we used to watch the Looney Tunes and all that stuff. And I remember that Bugs Bunny would be wearing a dress and put on lipstick and stuff like that. I mean, so we had that kind of cartoons when we were kids too, if you will. So I don't think it is entirely unique. And I don't know exactly what kind of cartoons that you're, specifically referring to, but we did have some pretty weird cartoons when we were kids. I do recall that.
I need 24/7 of Joe Kelley.
All right. I don't know about 24/7. I do need to take a nap every now and again.
Hey, Joe Kelley. Bill and Victoria here.
Hello, Bill and Victoria.
We love listening to you.
Thank you.
So we're very happy to be on your show. Very happy that you have your own show. And you're right. There's 1,000 channels out there you can listen to syndicated radio, but we can only listen to you. Keep up the good work. Thank you for having local news.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that more than you possibly know. Join me now at 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Or use the open mic and the WDBO app. Coming up next, wait till you hear what group the Democrats want to give a free pass to cross our southern U.S. border. That is coming up next, right here on the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Hello.
Good evening, 5:30 here at WDBO. Make sure you have that WDBO app downloaded so you don't miss your next chance of winning $1,000 with the WDBO payroll payout. Your next chance coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. You could get paid just for listening to WDBO. Our top story, American airline pilots moving closer to a strike.
The Allied Pilots Association announced that 96% of its 15,000 members voted on whether or not to authorize a strike last month. 99% of the participants said yes. The union representing the airline's pilots is asking for a raise for members along with improved efficiency in scheduling. While American Airlines pilots are allowing the potential for a strike, they're still on the job and negotiations with the airline are ongoing. Sophie Diaz, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
Researchers are taking a deeper dive into a more than 100-year-old discovery off the South Florida coast. The National Park Service explained today how officials found a former quarantine hospital and cemetery in the waters of the Dry Tortugas National Park. The graves are part of the Fort Jefferson Post Cemetery, most of which were military members. Officials say the healthcare facility was reportedly used to treat yellow fever patients at the fort as far back as the 1890s. Archaeologists starting to survey the area last year and plan to share more details about their findings soon. The legendary band Aerosmith will head out on the road one more time.
The Bad Boys from Boston announced a Peace Out tour today. The band will visit 40 cities, including Tampa and Sunrise. Founding drummer Joey Kramer will not take part in the tour, deciding to sit it out to instead focus on his family and his health. Tickets will go on sale Friday. Nicole Diaz, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
Make sure that WDBO app is downloaded so you don't miss your next chance of winning $1,000 with the payroll payout tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. 5:32 here at WDBO.
So if you're watching right now, this is what we call a clock. Hang on, that's a clock. Oh. No, I didn't. I unmuted myself.
Oh, no, we can hear you now.
Okay. So this is called a clock, right? This is what we use in radio to determine where the commercials go, where the talking goes, where everything goes. And so we have what we call it then a new clock. So I've got to memorize the new clock. I know it sounds like we just wing things on the radio, but we're not winging things. We're doing everything very deliberately. And I've got to look and see when my commercial breaks are. I don't know. I've got to figure this out. So, okay, hang on. Today's it's 5:35 now. We're going to come out and then we've got a floater break at 42. Okay, so that's when I got to take my next break just to do traffic at 42, right, Laurel? We'll do traffic at 42 and then come back to us.
Yes.
Are you reading it the same way?
Yeah, totally.
You're just saying that, aren't you? Do you have the clock in front of you? You don't have the clock. Yeah, you. I appreciate your support, though. So if I'm reading the clock right, we're going to have a floater at 42 to do traffic. So that's reminiscent of yesterday's clock or Friday's clock. So we'll do a floater at 42 and then go all the way to 50. But listen, I'm talking and juggling calls. If you could prompt me, cue me, say, hey, you need to take a break or do traffic, I really need you to lean into directing me tonight, maybe all week. Thank you. I just know I'm going to forget something.
Insightful.
You tell.
Third hour is still going to be on the air coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. So right after the Joe Kelley Show is going to be the third hour of Hannity. Hannity is on some 500 or 600 radio stations around the nation, and we're well aware of that. It's a great product. It's a great host. We love having Sean Hannity on the radio station. We're not getting rid of Sean Hannity, and we love what he does. He does great things for WDBO. We simply wanted to be able to add more local talk and programming, and in order to do so, we've bumped the third hour of Hannity back to 7 p.m. And a lot of people will say, well, gosh, I can stream Hannity anywhere. I can listen to the whole 3 hours anywhere. That's kind of the point. That's actually the point. Is we don't want to sound like 500 other radio stations in America. We want to sound like an Orlando radio station. We want to be an Orlando radio station, which is why we have decided to engage more local programming. And honestly, as the days, weeks, months, and years go on, I would expect to hear more local programming and not less local programming. Now, if you're just joining us here on WDBO, the Joe Kelley Show, we're talking about the latest CDC, Centers for Disease Control survey of high school students that say a record 1 in 4 high school students now say they're gay, bisexual, or questioning their sexuality. That is double the amount from 2015. Now, LGBTQ experts will say it's because of greater acceptance in school these days. But I don't know that actually flies because it doesn't match up the same numbers as adults. So if we've got 25% of high schoolers saying they're gay or LGBTQ or, it's something in the alphabet mafia there, we should have the same amount of adults, and we don't. We only have about 7% of adults who say they're gay, bisexual, or other. Similarly, in the UK, where they have surveyed high school students, they find that only 8% of people identify as gay or bi or any of the other LGBTQs. So the other option, if not that acceptance is higher, and that's why more students are coming out. The other option would be that it is a social contagion. Well, what exactly is a social contagion? I'll have you know that I looked this up in Psychology Today. We all subscribed. Laurel, you still subscribe. You get the monthly Psychology Today, right? That comes to you. They throw that on your doorstep.
Totally. Every day. Yeah.
Today, because, that's what I do. And they start explaining social contagion by something that happened in 1962. And I love this story. Dozens of workers in a textile factory in the United States came down with the exact same physical symptoms: rashes, numbness in their hands and feet, and episodes of nausea. It was initially believed that the factory had been infested with some sort of toxic insect that had bitten the workers. It became known as the June bug epidemic. I don't know if you know what a June bug is, but June bugs don't bite. At least I don't think they bite. I've never been bitten by a June bug. So it was determined that it was a form of mass hysteria or a social contagion. Some workers had developed psychologically induced symptoms, while others developed the same complaints as the disease spread from worker to worker. Social contagion is the subtle and sometimes unwitting spread of emotions or behaviors from one individual to others. Emotional contagion is the spread of emotions through crowds and is the reason why a movie seems funnier when we're in a crowded theater as opposed to watching it alone. Our mood is influenced by those laughing around us. A behavioral contagion is the process by which others' behaviors are replicated. This explains fads such as the Rubik's Cube craze of the 1970s. Was that 1970s? Or the ALS bucket challenge, where people filmed themselves dumping a bucket of ice on their heads in a campaign to promote awareness of ALS. These are just, and there's a whole bunch of other kinds of so-called contagions. There's hysterical contagions. There's contagions of aggression. There's rule violation contagions, and so many others. But clearly the spread of LGBTQ amongst our high schoolers is at least in part linked to it being a social contagion. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can hit me up in the open mic in the WDBO app. Triple team traffic now as we check that drive here on a Monday night with our man PC, Paul Cross. What's going on, Paul?
Well, there, Joe, we still see some brake lights right now on I-4. It doesn't look as bad as it has in the past, and we do have some crashes, too. One on Colonial westbound at Lake Pickett Road with 2 right lanes blocked, and then a wreck on 1792 southbound at County Home Road with the right lane closed. And on Orange Avenue, this is the bigger one, all southbound lanes are shut down at Gore Street, so try to get around that if you can. Don't go into that area. This report sponsored by Fresh from Florida. Shoppers, this is your local sweet corn farmer letting you know that Florida sweet corn is in season. Learn more at followfreshfromflorida.com. From the Florida Department of Agriculture. And from the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Kilmeade. You know me from Fox and Friends in the Morning and the Fox News Channel. What you may not know is on the radio show right here, I really respect your diversity. It's thought diversity and viewpoints, your viewpoints and political positions, even when we disagree. And sometimes we do. So I want to hear from you, Orlando, each and every day on the Brian Kilmeade Show, weekdays 9 till noon on WDBO.
Leave Hannity where he's at. quit messing with our programming.
Yeah, I get it. I know. Look, change is tough. Everybody hates change. We fear change. We all do. It's all humans hate change, right? Nobody's like, oh gosh, when I wake up today, I hope everything changes. I hope everything is different. No, we like things comfortable. We like things the same. All I ask, give it a chance. Give it a try. Check it out for a few days. Check it out for a few days after that. Check it out for a few more days after that. Just keep checking it out and see what you think.
Hey, Joe, here's my conspiracy theory on this one, because you can find a conspiracy theory in just about anything if you hold it up and look at it just right. Okay, the elites that run the world want to reduce the population, and LGBTQ does not repopulate as much as heterosexuals. Thank you. Back to the tinfoil hat.
Back to the tinfoil hat. That is interesting. And there certainly are those who believe that we are overpopulating this planet. There are other nations who believe that they are vastly underpopulating the planet, Japan. But there certainly are some people who believe that we are overpopulating the planet. That's certainly for sure.
Hey, Joe, it's great to have you back from 5 to 7. We love it.
Thank you.
On this topic you're speaking of tonight, I think it's kind of like the latest version of the freaks and the jocks and the nerds. Back when I was in school, that was what you were. You had to be labeled as one or the other. And it's kind of sad, but, that tag sticks.
Yeah, I think I was in the geek category. No. I don't want to say I think. I was most certainly in the geek category when I was in high school.
Joe, the reason there's such a big increase is because the school teachers are grooming the kids that are most vulnerable.
I'd like to say you're wrong about that. I really would. But if you spend even 5 minutes watching some of the videos on libs of TikTok, is it libs or liberals of TikTok? I'm not sure which it is. But if you look at some of those videos, it certainly does give you the impression that there are a lot of teachers out there that are certainly seemingly trying to groom children. That is the impression I get. It's like saying when there is police violence that all cops are bad. All cops are not bad, and all teachers are not grooming children to be LGBTQ. I don't believe that all teachers are grooming. But again, if you look at liberals of TikTok, you certainly get an idea that a lot of them are grooming. Not all, but a lot of them, in fact, are. You can join me now at 844-580-WDBO. Let's go to Max in Orlando. You're on the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Hi, Max.
Hi, Joe. I really love your show, and my comments on that is three things. Unfortunately, there are a lot of single parents, either father or mother, and that's one of the problems. The second thing you mentioned before is family values, like a father, a mother, and also the teaching. I don't think that they should be teaching or influence the children in school. They should actually teach what they're supposed to teach, history and everything else.
Yeah.
So these are my comments.
I'm with you on that, Max. No doubt about it. Thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it very much. My name is Joe Kelley. You can join me at 844-580-WDBO. All right, I've teased this, but coming up next, I'm going to tell you what category of border crossers are now getting the green light go category when it comes to trying to cross the southwestern border. You're going to love this. And by love this, I mean this is going to drive you crazy. And it's next here on the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Laurel, you're controlling everything, aren't you? On the ones and twos, you're doing all the hard work over there.
Yeah, I'm pressing a lot of buttons currently, and I'm trying to make sure I press the right ones.
Yeah. You're pressing my buttons.
I sure am.
And I don't mean that in a weird way. Or do I?
Protests are erupting once again in France over the plan to push back the retirement age. Thousands of angry workers are gathering in the streets of Paris in a huge May Day protest. It's all over the president's plan to increase the retirement age from 62 to 64. Several people are dead and at least 30 are hurt after a massive pileup due to a dust storm on Interstate 55 in Illinois. Police say 40 to 60 vehicles were involved in crashes this afternoon in the Springfield area. The highway is shut down in both directions. Officials say it occurred when heavy winds blew dirt from farm fields across the highway. The search for two missing Oklahoma teenagers is taking a shocking turn. Reports say their bodies have been discovered along with 5 others on a piece of property that's about 1 hour east of Oklahoma City. It's unclear how 14-year-old Ivy Webster and 16-year-old Brittany might be linked to the other victims.
Off. So does that, if my mic
Okay,
is...
I unmuted you. I muted you because I didn't want you talking during my big three, but I didn't want to unmute you if you were listening to open mics and they said a bad word. So now I just unmuted you and now you're in charge of your own mic.
Well, that sounds very brutal. That was harsh. Why did you treat me like that?
Sorry.
God, did I piss you off or something that I didn't know about? So if I turn my mic off and I'm listening to open mics, the open mics won't be heard, will they, on the feed? Will they? What are you yelling at him for? You're yelling at
There's
everybody.
so much going on. Okay, what? What do you want? What do you
Never
want?
mind, nothing. So what did I miss?
We're talking about you.
Hi, Scott.
just for listening to WDBO.
This is awesome.
Well, so glad you're joining us here on the debut night of the Joe Kelley Show here on WDBO. And if you are just joining us, I have got something that is going to, well, I suspect it'll fire you up, and not in a good way. Not like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard. It's going to be more like, you've got to be kidding me. Democrats in the House and the Senate floating legislation that would allow undocumented migrants to effectively walk straight into the United States, totally unrestricted, if they declare that they are LGBTQ+. The legislation was introduced last week. It would make it more difficult to detain illegal immigrants if they're categorized as, quote, vulnerable persons. The wording of the legislation, which is entitled the Dignity for Detained Immigrants Act, makes it clear that anybody who is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or intersex is thereby subject to a greater risk of persecution and discrimination in their home countries, and so should not be detained or removed from the U.S. by authorities. Oh, but wait, there's more. The legislation also asserts that migrants with limited English language proficiency are also more vulnerable and could qualify for the special status. Well, what the heck? I mean, the door is already wide open anyway. Well, what? I agree. I agree that people who genuinely identify as LGBTQ could be at greater risk in some foreign countries. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think even the most ardent of conservative would agree that people who are genuinely LGBTQ are probably at greater risk in some countries. But to give them a flat-out pass into the United States means that every single border crosser is now going to identify as gay just to get the free pass into the United States. Because you know what? There's no means test for it. They don't require you to prove that you're gay. You know what? Prove that you're gay, and we might let you in. But there is a test that comes with proving that you're gay, and you may not like the test. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Or use the open mic in the WDBO app. I'm Joe Kelley, and we'll continue straight ahead. All right, 1 hour. We're 1 hour in. We're halfway done. Oh, did you guys see earlier today when I spilled the cake? Hang on, I'll show you. So, much to my surprise and shock, and I say shock because they literally kicked open the studio door when I was sitting in here. And Laurel, you know what that's like when someone kicks open the door. Okay, I've got to be quiet now because Laurel's going to talk, so I'll have to finish this story later.
Good evening, 6 o'clock here at WDBO. Congrats to Shannon for winning the 5 o'clock WDBO payroll payout.
Oh my goodness, are you serious?
Make sure you have that WDBO app downloaded so you don't miss your next chance to win $1,000 like Shannon did. That next chance coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. You could get paid just for listening to WDBO. Our top story, President Biden says the banking system is safe as regulators respond to a failed commercial bank.
Deposits and assets of First Republic Bank were sold to J.P. Morgan Chase in a move President Biden says will ensure the banking system is safe and sound.
Ensure that all depositors are protected and the taxpayers are not on the hook.
First Republic is the second largest bank failure in U.S. history and the third mid-sized bank to need federal intervention in less than 2 months.
We have to make sure that we're not back in this position again. And I think we're well on our way to be able to make that assurance.
The president says he's calling on Congress to pass more rules giving regulators more supervision of large and regional banks. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Make sure that WDBO app is downloaded so you don't miss your chance at winning $1,000 tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. with the WDBO payroll payout. It's 6:01 here at WDBO. Karen, if you go back to the posts on our Facebook, we posted him dropping the cake. Let's see if he posted a picture of the actual cake. It had his face on it. And we're all kind of freaked out because nobody wants to eat the piece with his face on it. So we're all eating like around his face because he won't eat the cake because he and sugar don't get along. But that's another story for another day. But yeah, you can see the cake. I'm watching the video now. You can see the cake and him dropping it. Oh, Frank, you get a but-tis. Yeah, you get a rim shot. That was good. That was good. Icing on the cake. Okay, Joe's getting it set up. So in case you did miss the video, he's about to show you how he almost got in a lot of trouble with the engineers.
So I spilled that on the counter. I felt so bad. Watch. Here he goes. Oh, no! Can we talk about how good my hair looks in that video? I mean, that's the important thing, right? It was like a half an hour later, I was still finding that buttercream on things. I found it on my headphones.
And you hate sticky.
Yeah, I hate sticky.
So sticky.
I hate sticky and I can't eat sweets. So there you go. Very embarrassing. Did you lick the keys? Yeah, I licked the keys. I did have one bite of that cake, and it was delish. It was really, really good. Very sweet. Ugh. But man, sugar just makes me feel weak in my knees. Okay, where's my clock? Oh, I just found some more frosting on my headphone cords. Dang. And see, I couldn't get it all off of. See how it got in the little crevices right there on my. I know it doesn't focus right.
News to lively debates covering the issues that matter to you.
I make it a point to listen to Joe Kelley when I need to fully understand what's happening in the news.
Now,
do I
the Joe
unmute
Kelley
my mic
Show
now?
on Orlando's
I don't know how
News
this works.
and Talk, WDBO.
Thank you so much for joining us here on the debut night, the maiden voyage of the 2-hour Joe Kelley Show. If you're looking for Sean Hannity, well, you wouldn't be looking for Sean Hannity at 6 o'clock, but if you're looking for the third hour of Sean Hannity, that'll be coming up in an hour from now. That'll be coming up at 7 o'clock. By the way, I want to thank my colleagues here at WDBO. They were so kind, startled me several hours ago when they walked into the studio and brought a cake with my face on it. I don't think I've ever had a cake with my face on it before, but it was a congratulations on the debut of the Joe Kelley Show tonight, and they handed me the cake, and then I immediately dropped part of the cake onto the control board of the radio station. Thankfully, if you want to be able to see that, the video for that is on the WDBO Facebook page. If you want to be able to see that, Randy, if you could turn on the green room, that would be awesome. Because Laurel, you saw it firsthand.
I sure did.
Yeah, and I'm just now finding cake frosting in places that there should not be cake frosting. And you know how the engineers are about food in the studios?
Yeah, they're upset if we have anything, even water. And so if someday they're going to take off that soundboard, and there's just going to be a layer of icing underneath.
Let me tell you, we picked it. We were trying to clean it all up, right? So that the engineers wouldn't find out that I dropped the cake on the console here. But every time we kept moving something, I'm like, oh gosh, there's more frosting, and there's more. And I just realized there's frosting on the Google Home too. So there's, man, that frosting absolutely went everywhere. What a mess it made, but it was still nice. And thank you to everybody for the cake. I had one bite and it was absolutely delicious. I want you to hear an exchange between Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy and NBC's Chuck Todd on NBC over the weekend. And boy, this just tells you a lot about the mainstream media. It tells you a lot about NBC. It tells you a lot about Chuck Todd. And frankly, it tells me a lot about Vivek Ramaswamy that I like. And I'm liking Vivek Ramaswamy more and more. I get to know him. Hang on. A lot about Chuck Todd. Which mic is on that's not supposed to be on? That I like. Why am I getting a feedback of myself, Laurel? Hang on, I'm going to go back to the right cut. But that's the first thing he's saying.
But below the age of 18, I think it's perfectly legitimate.
Below the age of 18. I mean, for children to have this kind of intrusive type surgeries, we hear report after report after report of people who are transgender who later regret that they had a double mastectomy, or they regret having their penis removed, or they regret having a vagina installed, or whatever the process is, they regret that later. Now, the numbers of transgender citizens who get reported that they regret that is infinitely lower than those who claim to be transgender. I mean, there's just not a whole lot of reporting. It's not part of the mainstream network media messaging. They don't want that kind of messaging out there, so they are very quick to shut that down. Again, if you're just joining us here on WDBO, my name is Joe Kelley. This is the debut of the Joe Kelley Show. I know that if you have been listening here at 6 o'clock, I've been on at 6 o'clock for over a year. Gosh, coming up on 2 years now. I can tell you a little bit behind the scenes of how long this has been in the process. It's been a long time. This has been a very, very long time coming to get this show launched. And it has been literally part of the process for the past 5 years or so. That was the first time somebody had mentioned to me, hey, Joe, do you want to move from the morning show to a talk show in the afternoon? And the complexities of negotiating radio contracts and, both syndicated contracts and other syndicated contracts and local contracts and all that stuff is incredibly complex. I know that a lot of people have thrown out what they think are easy solutions.
It actually been much better if you would have took 2 hours of Eric's show.
Yeah, see, there are complexities there that I'm afraid you're not aware of, including how great Eric Erickson is doing in the ratings right now for WDBO. Eric Erickson is a superstar here on WDBO, so we're very, very excited about that. But if you have, any other questions, if you have any other concerns, you're certainly welcome to share them with me. You can call 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app. And let's see, we've got a question here about the programming.
Can you tell us when we can listen to Jimmy Fallon?
Oh, yeah.
That was on at 7.
Oh.
So where's Fox Across the Nation with Jimmy Fallon going to be?
Yeah, I hear your dog there in the background. Your dog sounds cute. I'm not going to lie to you. You probably won't like this news. Jimmy Fallon is going to be on very, 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 very late at night, early in the morning. I believe it's 2 to 5 a.m. And again, it's the complexities of radio contracts and syndicators and syndications, syndication houses. It's very complicated because when you negotiate one deal, you often have to negotiate 2 or 3 or 4 deals at the same time. And then sometimes you have to negotiate 2 or 3, 4 deals with 2 or 3 or 4 radio stations. And it just takes forever. And it's incredibly complicated to be able to go through all of that. I promise you.
Hey, Joe, this is Garrett from DeBerry. Going back to the LGBTQIABC and the population thing. Us conservatives, all we need to do is just have more babies than them. They can't even have babies. So let's have conservative babies. That's why I love Trump wanting to give money to people that have babies. Let's go.
All right, go have more babies, y'all. My baby making days are over, but at least I'm reasonably sure. I hope they are. Yeah, they're over. But I understand where you're coming from, and you can certainly get busy with that as quickly as you'd like to. There is a Florida state senator who wants to require registered sex offenders to have license plates on their cars with the word sexual offender marked in red. The plates themselves would be fluorescent green license plates, and the plate would go on any vehicle owned, leased, or operated by persons who are designated as sexual predators under Florida statute. So this would basically be the scarlet letter A for sexual predators, publicly identifying, publicly outing sexual predators. But it's more than that. I think you could probably get some people on board for this. By the way, curiously, it's a Democrat who is proposing this bill. It's not a Republican. It's a Democrat, Senator Lauren Book, who has proposed this. And the amendment includes people who are also subject to registration as sexual offenders or have a similar designation under the laws of another jurisdiction. Now, here's where things get more complicated, though, because it's not just for sex offenders. It's not just for the registrants themselves, but for their spouses and children as well. So let's just imagine a scenario where you are not a sex offender, but say your spouse is. That means that your car would also have the fluorescent green and red lettered sex offender on your license plate. I think this is a terrible idea. A terrible idea, particularly because it includes spouses and children and can even include other family members and, in some cases, roommates, extended family, or even friends. Friends of sexual predators. Now, I know that sexual predators in and of itself, they're bad. Well, like, we don't like sexual predators. I get that. But I think you'd be foolish if you don't recognize that there are varying degrees of badness when it comes to sexual predators. Sometimes if somebody, rapes a child and they're able to get out of jail, which is an abomination, but if they get out of jail, then they're a registered sex offender for the rest of their lives, as they should be. And perhaps those are people who should be publicly identified as being sex offenders. But there are also people who say urinated in public, and because they urinated in public, maybe, when they were in college, they were drinking too much and they went behind a shrub and they went to the bathroom and the police caught them, and now they have been identified as a sex offender for the rest of their lives. Those are people that don't need to be harassed when they're out in public driving their cars. Those are people whose wives or husbands don't need to be harassed, or children or friends or roommates don't need to be harassed when they're out in public. If you put a car in a parking lot that says sex offender on it, how long until somebody comes out and keys the car, before somebody comes out and flattens the tires, before somebody comes out and breaks the windshields, before somebody comes out and sets the car ablaze? I mean, that is where we are as a society right now. We are into vigilante justice. I don't like that's where we are, but that is where we are right now. And I frankly think it's a terrible idea to identify people, particularly if you're including the entire spectrum of registered sex offenders. From the lowest possible level offender, someone who did not hurt anybody at all, versus someone who has raped a child. I mean, these are different offenses, and they should not be treated the same. What do you think? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Or you can use the open mic in the WDBO app. You're listening to The Joe Kelley Show. This is WDBO.
So my computer kicked me off and it said no more. And it shut down my microphone and it shut down my video camera. And then it brought me back. We don't know why for any reason at all.
La, 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 la. Okay, sorry. Can you hear me? Am I on? Am I on? Hello?
You're on. Hello?
Okay.
Chick, chick.
Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Hello? Hello? Doesn't my hair look good today?
Look great. You look great.
You don't have to say that. You're not required to compliment. You're not. Don't make that face. Thank you for joining us here on the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. If you're just joining us, we've got a couple different topics we're talking about right now, not the least of which Democrats are proposing a bill that'll allow LGBTQ migrants to walk right across the border into the United States unrestricted, saying that they are persecuted in their home nations. And because of that, they should get a free pass into the United States. They also say the same thing. They, being Democrats, say that migrants with limited English language proficiency are also more vulnerable and could qualify for the special status. You're telling me that people are allowed to enter the United States as long as they don't speak English and as long as they're gay. That gives them a free pass into the United States, according to this new Democratic Party legislation.
Joe, I genuinely just screamed out loud when I heard that. All you have to do is come up to the border and say you're gay.
Yep.
What is happening in this world? And congratulations on your new show.
Well, thank you.
I love listening to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. 844-580-WDBO. Let's go to Michael in Orlando. You're on the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Joe. How are you today?
Very good. Thanks.
Good. So I just want, it's like our country's going to hell in a handbasket,
We are circling the drain some days, doesn't it seem?
Well, what's really interesting is the proliferation of such evil because, quote, the good people do nothing. They're always like, well, what can I do? What can I do? I've gone through the same heart motion. What can I do as the average person to make a difference, to make a change?
Michael, people are afraid. People are afraid to speak out. People don't want to be canceled.
It's kind of like I had the opportunity to listen to the guy that just got canned from Fox. What's his name?
Tucker Carlson.
I listened to his heritage speech, and it was phenomenal. And you're right in that the key was just having the ability to stand up and tell the truth.
Yeah.
That there is empowerment in that, and people don't want to hear the truth. And so in our pervasive society where you have to be all things to all people to get a vote, to become powerful, that's what's lacking is the simple truth. So when you have, one of the things that I wanted to talk about briefly was the fact that the legislation is being put forth in our free state of Florida, and I'm a conservative, about if someone has been convicted as a child molester or whatever,
right,
sexual crime, that they, their friends, their family, and everybody else has to suffer for it. Well, I can tell you that I have a friend that's in jail right now for that very reason.
Okay.
And let's say they say, okay, so because you were his friend, now you have to have a license tag on your car saying that you were his friend, but not really. You're identified the same as him. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's insane.
That would absolutely ruin my life.
Yes.
Just for being his friend.
Even
now, did I know he did this? No.
Right.
But the point of the matter is, because I was associated with him, now I'm going to get a tag like that and be labeled the same.
Imagine their spouse or their children, their driving age children. If you got a 16-year-old daughter, and then she has to drive the car that has sexual predator license plates on it. I mean, that is just a terrible idea. I don't know how anybody could get behind this idea.
Bro, are you serious? You're gonna shout out sexual predators on the road? Do we not already have enough road rage? We don't need Hillbilly Bob shooting some guy in his car because he's got a green license plate. This is crazy.
Yeah, right. Talk about road rage getting a bit off the chart. That is going to be a big problem. Coming up next, on the subject of people are afraid to speak up, a 12-year-old kid wears a shirt to school that says there are only two genders. That 12-year-old kid is forced to go home and change shirts. He was sent home to change shirts. Well, that 12-year-old kid addressed the school board this week, and I want you to hear a 12-year-old child who has more common sense, more wherewithal than many adults in our society today. It is coming up next on the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
This is WDBO.
WDBO.
107.3 FM and AM 580. Orlando's news and talk. And where Orlando turns first for breaking news, weather, and traffic 24 hours a day. Listen on the WDBO app at WDBO.com. Ask Alexa to play WDBO and on the HD2 of 96.5. WDBO is everywhere you are. Live team coverage
starts now.
Good evening, 6:30 here at WDBO. Remember to get on the WDBO payroll payout by having the WDBO app downloaded right now. Your chance of winning $1,000 coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. You could get paid just for listening to WDBO. Our top story, Chase today announced the purchaser of First Republic Bank after the failed banks was seized by the federal government. President Joe Biden today stating clearly the move is not a bailout.
The president said that regulators took action to protect deposits, but taxpayers are not on the hook. This message is something we have heard from the administration before with previous situations like this with other banks. And the message is it's not a taxpayer bailout. He said that depositors are being protected, shareholders are losing their investments, but underlining that taxpayers are not on the hook here.
Speaking of new banks, a new one is coming here to Central Florida.
Ocean Bank is a Florida-born community bank that serves the South Florida area with almost 24 locations. Now they're making the move to Central Florida.
We're born and grown in Florida, and our goal is to keep expanding and keep growing in Florida.
CEO Alfonso Macedo says, while the company is Hispanic-based, they are looking to create opportunity with people from all communities here in Orlando.
We are very proud to be a Hispanic bank that deals with every single community.
Ocean Bank is welcoming customers at their new location on North Magnolia Avenue. Nicole Diaz, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
A list of the best states for retirement leaves Florida out of first place.
Wallet Hub ranked the states based on quality of life, affordability, and healthcare. Virginia took first place overall, besting the Sunshine State in terms of healthcare. Florida didn't take first place, but it excelled in terms of quality of life, while Alabama was noted as the cheapest state to retire in. Sophie Diaz, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
Remember to have that WDBO app downloaded so you don't miss your chance of winning $1,000 with the payroll payout coming up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., 6:32 here at WDBO.
So, do you guys want to see? I'll share a screen with you for anybody online right now. If you want to see, I'm going to show you if I can share that screen. Hang on, I've got a lot open. Composer? No. I have a lot of tabs open. Okay, here we go. So this is the software program that we use to monitor incoming open mics and a lot of other stuff. I'll go big here. Let's see, full screen. There we go. So these are where the open mics come in, and then I label them as they come in. So a lot of times when I'm not paying attention to you guys, it's because I'm listening to open mics. So that's it. So now back to us and Josh. Josh's elbow, Josh's fingers. Thank you, Karen. I don't think I'll listen to WDBO anymore. This is almost as bad as what Fox did to Tucker. Stephen Van Rompuy. That's a cool name. Rompuy. Stephen, I appreciate your comments. Thank you for your candor. I can tell you that if we make changes to put things back, it'll be a while. It'll be a year or 2 or 5. Sometimes, like everybody, think about your own jobs. Think about the jobs that y'all have, okay? Assume that there are things that happen in your work that I know nothing about, right? Let's say you work at a theme park and I haven't the slightest idea how theme parks actually work. I don't understand why they close some rides and open other rides. I don't understand why they serve some foods but not other foods. There are things in people's businesses that I just don't understand. Well, similarly, it's safe to assume that there are things that happen in the radio business that y'all don't understand and that we do. I mean, we eat, sleep, drink, breathe radio. This is what we do for a living. And it was said that Henry Ford was once asked that if he listened to what people said about, faster transportation, they would have asked for faster horses, not for cars. So kind of think of it in that sense, in that we're trying to make cars and not faster horses. And we have the luxury, if you will, we have the responsibility to look at all the ratings. We have the responsibility to look at the revenue. We have the responsibility to look at all the business aspects of our radio station, and we have to respond accordingly. We don't just make changes on a whim. We don't just think, oh, Joe's been here long enough, let's give him an extra hour. It doesn't work that way. Nobody just gets it because they've been here long enough. We heavily research everything. So just believe me when I tell you that there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're just not able to share with everybody because of relationships. We have relationships with people, and we just don't want to have 1,000 different messages out there about changes that we make. But I do believe we're being more transparent with you than any changes we've made in the past, and I hope to be more transparent with you moving forward with any changes that we may or may not make. That's it. Third hour of Sean Hannity is coming up at 7 o'clock tonight. That's in about 22 minutes from right now. If you want to be able to check out the third hour of the Sean Hannity Show, that is its new time at 7 p.m. My name is Joe Kelley, host here of the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. If you are just joining us, we've been talking about a Florida senator who wants to have specialized license plates for sex offenders and potentially their family members as well. We go to Mark in Orlando joining us here on the Joe Kelley Show. Hi, Mark.
Howdy, guys. Thanks for taking the call. A couple quick things. Actually, a couple callers beat me to it. I was thinking you were talking vandalism to the car with that proposal. I think it'd be worse. I think there'd be vigilante executions, like the guy that talked about the road rage issues. I also want to commend the station for extending your show to 2 hours. I tune into this only because of the local stuff.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you, Mark.
Traffic and such like that. In fact, my model, I grew up in the Philly area. There's a station there that's KYW 1060 that's 100% news, traffic, and weather all day, 24/7.
Yep.
And that's the station I listen to in that area because of the craziness of that traffic.
Yeah,
up there.
right. I totally understand that. Mark, thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate your open mind, and that's all I ask of any of the rest of our listeners as well. Just have an open mind. Sometimes companies make changes, and sometimes we don't know why companies make changes, but the companies know why they make changes. I want you to hear this 12-year-old boy. This is out of Massachusetts. A 12-year-old boy, 12 years old. He wears a shirt to school that reads, "There are only two genders." He was then sent home from school to change shirts. And then the boy addresses the school board, and I am really impressed with the maturity and the logic and the sound thinking and the sound speaking of this 12-year-old child who is defending himself for having worn a "There are only two genders" t-shirts. Take a listen.
Good evening. My name is Liam Morrison. I live at 519 Wareham Street. I'm in the 7th, 10th grade at Nichols Middle School. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. I never thought that the shirt I wore to school on March 21st would lead me to speak with you today. On that Tuesday morning, I was taken out of gym class to sit down with two adults for what turned out to be a very uncomfortable talk. I was told that people were complaining about the words on my shirt, that my shirt was making some students feel unsafe. Yes, words on a shirt made people feel unsafe. They told me that I wasn't in trouble, but it sure felt like I was. I was told that I would need to remove my shirt before I could return to class. When I nicely told them that I didn't want to do that, they called my father. Thankfully, my dad supported my decisions and came to pick me up. What did my shirt say? 5 simple words. There are only two genders. Nothing harmful, nothing threatening, just a statement I believe to be a fact. I have been told that my shirt was targeting a protected class. Who is this protected class? Are their feelings more important than my rights? I don't complain when I see pride flags and diversity posters hung throughout the school. Do you know why? Because others have a right to their beliefs just as I do. Not one person, staff, or student told me that they were bothered by what I was wearing. Actually, just the opposite. Several kids told me that they supported my actions and that they wanted one too. I experienced I was told that the shirt was a disruption to learning. No one got up and stormed out of class. No one burst into tears. I'm sure I would have noticed if they had. I experience disruptions to my learning every day. Kids acting out in class are a disruption, yet nothing is done. Why do the rules apply to one, yet not another? I feel like these adults were telling me that it wasn't okay for me to have an opposing view. Their arguments were weak, in my opinion. I didn't go to school that day to hurt feelings or cause trouble. I have learned a lot from this experience. I learned that a lot of other students share my view. I learned that adults don't always do the right thing or make the right decisions. I know that I have a right to wear a shirt with those 5 words. Even at 12 years old, I have my own political opinions, and I have a right to express those opinions. Even at school, this right is called the First Amendment to the Constitution. My hope in being here tonight is to bring the school committee's attention to this issue. I hope that you will speak up for the rest of us so we can express ourselves without being pulled out of class. Next time, it may not only be me. There might be more students that decide to speak out. Thank you for your time and good night.
Kid was great, right? He gets applause.
Anyone else on public comment?
Yeah, even some of the members of the school board applauded that kid. I got to get that kid a talk radio show. That kid is amazing. I like his maturity. I like his argument. I thought it was sound. That nobody had complained to him or had gone running out of the room or anything like that. I remember, Laurel, have you ever been sent home for something that you wore to school?
No, not really. I remember we couldn't wear like anything that showed our shoulders, but I was a good girl. I wore long sleeves.
Covered your shoulders. Good for you. Yeah, because nobody wants to see your shoulders. I was sent home from school once because of a shirt that I wore to school. And this was back before things were controversial. I'm almost embarrassed to say what my shirt said, particularly now given more recent events. But I had won a free T-shirt at the state fair. You know, these just crap shirts you get at the state fair. And I had won a Budweiser T-shirt at the state fair. And I wore it to school one day, and evidently you're not allowed, at least at the time I was growing up in Texas, you're not allowed to wear shirts promoting alcohol to school. I don't know if that is still the case, but I was told that I had to go home and change shirts. And I don't know about you, and I always talk about this when kids, get to protest things. I was just happy I got to go home for the day. I mean, that was my takeaway. It was like, this is so cool. I just get to go home, and I just want to go home, and that's awesome. 6:44 at the time. Now, did we check traffic? Where are we? We got to do traffic. Yeah, we don't hear. Okay. Yeah. So I'm learning the new clock to the show. We've changed a few things. We call it a clock behind the scenes. The structure of what the show looks like, and I've got to memorize the new clock. But Randy tells me we're not going to do traffic here. So we got till. All right, I got about a minute left. That's good. All right, you can join me using the open mic. We've been talking about this license plate. There's a state lawmaker here in Florida that wants to have distinctive license plates, fluorescent green with red type that says sexual predators on it. And it can apply to not only registered sex offenders, but also their spouses, to their children, potentially to their roommates, to their friends, to extended family members, could all be required to have the exact same license plate as a sexual predator. Terrible idea, if you ask me. Thank you for asking me. 844-580-WDBO, or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
Protests are erupting once again in France over the plan to push back the retirement age. Thousands of angry workers are gathering on the streets of Paris in a huge May Day protest that's all over the president's plan to increase the retirement age from 62 to 64. At least people are dead and 30 injured after a dust storm pileup in south central Illinois today. Crews remained at the site near Springfield over Interstate 55. A dust storm hit the area, dramatically bringing down visibility, causing a chain reaction crash. The search for two missing Oklahoma teenagers is taking a shocking turn. Reports say their bodies have been discovered along with 5 others on a piece of property that's about 1 hour east of Oklahoma City. It's unclear how 14-year-old Ivy Webster and 16-year-old Brittany might be linked to the other victims.
So, Laurel, if I'm reading this clock right, this next segment is our last segment. Is that right? Am I reading that right, Josh?
Josh says that's right.
So we only have one segment left. Wow, this has gone by really, really fast tonight. I need a third hour. I will tell you that I'm listening to the open mics, and there are complaints about the change, and there are compliments about the change. No one has been terribly, terribly rude. Hang on, I'll see if I can find one that's kind of rude, and I'll play it on the radio.
Sure, why not?
Can't we get a video on Josh? Josh, well, Josh isn't actually part of the show. He's not. He's here tonight making sure everything goes right for the first night. Because Laurel and I are incredibly busy on the air, and so Josh is able to help behind the scenes. Josh is a godsend, to be clear. I mean, I there's no two ways about that, but he's not part of the show, so we won't have a camera on Josh. He's like management now. He's like lower middle management, or is he middle lower middle? He's middle lower middle management. He's either upper lower, I don't know. He could be upper lower management or middle upper management. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Even though I had friends who went, I did not watch any part of the Washington press corps big dinner, the nerd prom thing that they had over the weekend. I'm going to play an 11-second clip of Joe Biden. Honestly, I didn't watch it because I don't know who I find more contemptible, President Biden or the Washington press corps. I find them to both be very contemptible. And President Biden and any president who does this as a comic who writes their jokes for them, either a White House, writer or a speech writer or a comedian will write the punchlines and that kind of stuff. But the problem with Joe Biden is I don't think he understands that people are laughing at him. They're not laughing with him. They're laughing at him. And especially when he tells jokes like this.
This dinner sums up my first 2 years in office. I'll talk for 10 minutes, take 0 questions, and cheerfully walk away.
Yeah, they're laughing at you. They're not laughing with you. Let's go to Chris in Orlando. You're on WDBO. Hi, Chris. Chris, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead.
I was just calling in about the license plate thing. While I appreciate what this politician is probably trying to do to protect our children, as my profession is working with these child victims every single day of sexual abuse, I think it's not the license plates that need to be fixed. It's the laws that help us prosecute these child sex offenders.
And give me an example of what you mean. They get turned out too quickly onto the streets?
No, they get dropped. Charges get dropped way too because the children aren't credible in what they're telling.
Oh, boy. Yeah, which is, I guess it's hard for them to be credible, right, when they're children. And if someone is going to try to believe the word of a child versus the word of an adult, you're saying that they're more likely to believe the adult?
Correct. Correct. And that's sending a really bad message to our children who have been sexually abused. They need to know that people believe them.
And you're not wrong, Chris. Obviously, you're not wrong about that. But I would imagine there are some cases where, say, a divorcing couple, one of the parents could plant an idea in a susceptible child's head that they were somehow abused.
And you're absolutely right. And that's why mental health therapy is essential for these children.
Yeah.
So it puts a professional in the place of professionally judging or seeing if these children are credible.
No doubt. Good points, Chris. Thank you so very much. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. A couple of more open mics.
Hey, Joe, Mark from Winter Garden. That issue regarding the homosexuals from Mexico having freedom to come into the States and non-English speaking people coming into the States. No. We can't pay our bills. We are borrowing trillions and we still can't pay our bills. No, we don't need more problems to come into the country. Just say no, like Nancy Reagan said. Have a great night.
All right, you two, I'll put you down for maybe. How about that? I'll put you down for maybe. No?
Yay, good news. More Joe Kelley. That's the best thing I've heard in a while.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so very much. Thanks for listening tonight here on the maiden voyage of the Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Laurel, thank you, of course. And we'll be back here with you tomorrow, 5 to 7 every night this week, right here on WDBO.
Now, WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 5.
So thanks, you guys, so much for watching. We hope to get better with each progressive night. And that's it. We'll get better at this. But that having been said, I think we did a pretty good job on the first night of 2 hours. Yeah. Okay. Everybody's giving the thumbs up. I'm going to stop the broadcast. Love you guys. Join us tomorrow night. Thank you. We'll see you.